A 15-minute lunch break is plenty. Quit dawdling and get back to work.
Working for an event company, I was assigned one day as the site manager for a major corporation's anniversary event. However, the president of the host company treated me and the workers as expendable subcontractors, belittling us. Working under the blazing sun with heat stroke warnings and extremely short breaks. That poor workplace environment led to a surge in health issues. Even when these concerns were raised to the president, he was dismissive.
You know there are plenty of subcontractors for events who work the same hours with even shorter breaks, right? If you can't handle it, I'll terminate the contract.
The president thought that threatening to terminate a contract would make us back down. I couldn't take it anymore, so I just said got it using the authority of the site manager. My name is Tom Green, a 35-year-old who works for an event company. Ever since I was a kid, I loved big events and festivities, and as an adult, I wanted to be involved in setting up and running them, which led me to my current job. After 13 years with the company since starting as a graduate, I have achieved some success and now often manage larger events. I'm blessed with a wife and kids, and I feel fulfilled both in my work and at home. Currently, I'm swamped with preparations for a major event scheduled for next week. It's a grand affair celebrating the 20th anniversary of a leading corporation, taking over a venue as large as a baseball stadium, quite elaborate for a regional event. After weeks of meticulous preparation, today was finally the day to enter the site, but...
All right, let's get to your positions quickly and knock them out,
said the president of the hosting corporation, without even looking at me and the workers when we went to greet him. Taken aback by his brusque greeting, both I and the workers were slightly bewildered. Until now, I had only dealt with friendly representatives, but I guess there are people like him too.
What are you spacing out for? Get started already.
Yes, alright, okay guys, let's start bringing in the equipment. Once everything's out, move it to the designated area. Feeling uneasy about the president's attitude, I began directing the workers. While setting up, I pondered about the president, Jeff Beck, hosting this event. The documents I received beforehand included information about him. Apparently, he's the second-generation president who recently took over the company from his predecessor. I wonder if the previous president who hosted the 10th anniversary event was also like this. During lunch break, in the conference room set up as a rest area for the workers, I casually inquired with the experienced workers, and they all shook their heads. It wasn't like this under the former president. We could work much more comfortably from start to finish, they all said unanimously. The outlook seems bleak on the very first day. Just as I was about to eat my lunch, thinking this,
how long are you going to take a break?
Suddenly, Jeff burst into the room and began berating me and the workers in a harsh tone.
A 15-minute lunch break is plenty. Don't dawdle, get back to work.
One of the experienced workers, unable to bear the president's overbearing attitude, stood up. We are entitled to an hour's break. It's clearly stated in the contract. If you require overtime work, that will incur additional charges. I quickly intervened in the conversation. It would be bad to have a dispute between the zealous worker and Jeff.
There are plenty of event subcontractors willing to work the same hours with shorter breaks, you know. I contracted with your company because I heard you had the former president's endorsement. But man, your service sucks.
As soon as the conversation turned to me, he started having a mocking tone. I doubt there are competitors who would happily accept overtime work without concern, but that's beside the point. Today is another scorching hot day with heat alerts. Workers won't last without proper breaks, and it will cause delays in work. Please understand this. It's early August now. We've been experiencing unusually severe heat for the past few days. It's not just about the contract, but more importantly, considering the worker's health is vital to get through the setup and tear down in this intense heat.
Geez, can't you be more flexible? Taking an hour's break. You better pick up the pace in the afternoon. If I catch anyone slacking, I'll terminate the contract.
Reacting to the mention of potential work delays, Jeff left the conference room with those parting words. After he left, I breathed a sigh of relief. We managed to avoid a major conflict, but what a difficult customer, or rather, a troublesome president. No matter how important the client is, this situation is getting increasingly problematic. It was the second day of being on site, in the morning, while we were setting up near the entrance of the venue. Normally, only the event company staff and the president would be on site, but that day, there was an unfamiliar person inspecting the setup. He seemed mainly interested in watching the workers set up the equipment, but could he be related to Jeff?
Kevin. Well, what a surprise.
While I was pondering, Jeff suddenly appeared and dashed over to a guy called Kevin. And while I was watching the scene with a puzzled expression, one of the workers leaned over and whispered to me, "Seems like he's the president of one of Jeff's company's clients. Must be here for some kind of inspection or something, huh?" Indeed, Jeff, who had been quite harsh with us, seemed unusually subservient to Kevin. As I watched this scene, suddenly both presidents looked our way. Realizing it was not good, they were already approaching us. If they complain about us slacking, it'll be troublesome.
Good work. Are you the site manager? Nice to meet you,
said Kevin, offering his business card with a gentle and polite manner. In contrast, Jeff glared at us from behind Kevin with a displeased look. Thank you. Sorry, I don't have my business card on me.
No worries. It's my fault for interrupting your work. Jeff, could you introduce him?
Prompted by Kevin, Jeff reluctantly introduced me.
Actually, our company is approaching its 30th anniversary next year. I thought about holding an event and came to observe the setup today for reference.
That's wonderful. I apologize for not greeting you properly.
Oh, no, it's me who just showed up and announced. You all work so quickly and meticulously. It's reassuring. If this event succeeds, please consider handling ours too.
With those pleasing words, Kevin left. Sorry for interrupting your work, he said, being polite until the end. The brief joy of his kind interaction was interrupted as Jeff spoke to me from behind once Kevin was out of sight.
Don't get too cocky just because Kevin took a liking to you. He can be scary when angered,
he said with a smirk, which was quite unsettling. Is that so? I replied noncommittally, trying to get back to work, but Jeff stopped me again.
I was the one who introduced you to Kevin, right?
Well, yes, that's true.
Thanks to me, your company might land a new big client, right?
That's not certain yet.
That company could turn out to be a bigger client than ours. I did you a favor by connecting you. Shouldn't you be offering some kind of service in return?
It seemed like he was hinting at wanting some kickback for the introduction, but we hadn't officially gotten any work from Kevin yet. While I was thinking about how to handle the situation, Jeff started making more demands.
Yay, you know what? Let's step up the lighting in that exhibit area and give it some extra service.
Huh? I blurted out reflexively. He was referring to the largest space right at the entrance of the venue. The equipment setup was already complete, and changing it now was impossible. We didn't bring any extra equipment, and certainly not high-end lighting to use for free. No, that's just not feasible, logically speaking. I had a lot to say, but I summed it up succinctly. I wished he was just joking, but sadly, it seemed he was not. He was clearly looking displeased.
Your service really sucks. You're not even working that fast. If you can't offer a better service, at least finish earlier than planned. Starting tomorrow, you're going full throttle with no breaks, got it?
As soon as he realized things weren't going his way, he quickly showed his displeasure and started making unreasonable demands. I wonder, is this president older than me? Is this how someone who runs a large corporation behaves? That thought made me angry, and my tone became a bit sharper. There are no delays in our work, and we will adhere to the break times as per the labor regulations. Besides, we haven't officially received any work from Kevin yet. Saying that, I returned to work without waiting for Jeff's response. However, he followed me, so I quickly moved to work at a higher spot. As Jeff reached out to the ladder I was on, an experienced worker nearby shouted, "Hey, that's dangerous. Don't touch it." Jeff, intimidated by the worker's outcry, left the area. But the next day, something unexpected happened. The conference room we had set aside for breaks was no longer available. Upon inquiry, I found out that the reservation for the conference room had been canceled as of yesterday. It was clear this was Jeff's way of causing trouble. Still, we had to continue working, so everyone left their belongings in their cars or in corners of the venue, taking turns to eat and rest whenever possible. However, it was impossible for all the workers, numbering in dozens, to have their meals and short breaks in the lobby, hallways, or, worse, under the scorching sun outside. Moreover, Jeff, who had stayed in his office during the first 2 days, suddenly started making frequent rounds of the setup. If he caught anyone taking a break, he'd immediately start giving them a hard time, saying stuff like "this ain't break time" or "quit slacking off." He targeted only the timid elderly, women, and youngsters. Why doesn't he just bring his complaints to me, the site manager? Unfortunately, outdoor work also began that day, meaning most of the work hours were spent under the direct sunlight. Under such terrible conditions, it was inevitable that people started falling ill. Though no one was emergency transported, it was a natural outcome of working almost non-stop under the blazing sun. Jeff's response to the sick workers was consistently insensitive, saying things like, "They're probably just faking it," or "people who can't contribute should just disappear," without any compassion or empathy. Fearing the situation could become irreversible, I, as the site manager, allowed those feeling unwell to take more breaks and instructed them to go home if they showed symptoms like fever. But Jeff retorted with a final blow.
Don't let them go home on your own. Isn't that a breach of contract? What if the event can't proceed as planned?
This comment ignited my anger, and I responded with a voice close to yelling. Is the event more important to you than human life? We are not machines. It's natural that humans need breaks. If you think it's so easy, why don't you try working out here in this heat? Perhaps the heat and anger made me lose control of my words. Jeff flinched momentarily at my outburst, but quickly directed his anger back at me.
What's with that attitude? Acting like some hotshot subcontractor with an attitude. The workers aren't doing their job properly because you, the site manager, aren't handling things right. If you can't work properly, I'll really terminate the contract.
Does he still think threatening to terminate a contract will silence me? How underestimating. With that thought, strangely, my anger dissipated. Understood. Given the circumstances, let's call it quits, folks. Pass the word along to the others. I found myself giving orders to the nearby workers with a wooden face. Jeff probably thought I had snapped. Assuming no one would listen to me, Jeff looked smug. "Leave no trace behind. Clean up before you leave," he said with a smirk. That was the moment. The workers began dismantling all the setup equipment in unison. Led by the experienced leaders, both young individuals and women actively participated in the retreat operation. My decision alone might be shaky, but since we got the customer's assurance firsthand, the workers can pull out without any worries. The speed of it, I tell you, no matter how many years you've seen it, it's impressive. Unlike the setup, the dismantling process was relatively quick. The outdoor booths we had just set up were gone in no time. Even before Jeff could grasp what was happening. We'll clear out the indoors quickly too. Probably will be done in half a day. I told the dazed president, who snapped back to reality and blurted out, "You're really going to clear everything up?" It seemed he had just realized that getting another company now wouldn't meet the event deadline.
How are you going to explain this to your boss, huh? If you cancel the contract like this, you'll be fired. Are you okay with that?
Sure, that might happen. But at this point, I was fine with that. If I get fired for prioritizing human life, then so be it. While Jeff was making a fuss, the dismantling work progressed rapidly. But his ranting was barely noticeable amidst the work noise, so I continued to give instructions and work methodically. Before the end of the workday, all tasks from dismantling to moving out were completed. Was this the fastest we've ever done? After giving the staff the go-ahead to leave, I, as the site manager, approached Jeff for one last time. As per your instruction, all work has been completed. The contract is now concluded, and I will inform our boss. Thank you very much. Just after finishing the formalities and about to get into the car without waiting for a response, I saw someone rushing into the venue. Kevin. It was Kevin, who had visited the site the other day. Seeing the neatly cleared venue, he looked astonished.
Thought I'd drop by again today and see how things are going. What on earth happened here?
Kevin asked the pale-faced Jeff. In a near frenzy, Jeff blurted out, "They started dismantling everything on their own." I calmly recounted Jeff's actions on site, the poor working conditions, the resulting health issues among workers, and how he insisted on continuing the work despite it all, mentioning that he himself had said contracts could be terminated as replacements were available. I prioritized human life and terminated the contract under my authority as site manager. Sorry for the inconvenience on your visit.
How can you prove I said that, huh? Show me the evidence.
Jeff, stomping in frustration, was bewildering, but when asked for evidence, We had none. As I hesitated, a worker spoke up. We have evidence. Despite being directed to leave, many workers had stayed, waiting. The first worker pulled out his phone, and before you knew it, the others followed suit, all playing their recordings simultaneously. The recordings captured Jeff's unreasonable demands, his tirades, and a recent conversation. Dozens of workers, unable to stand Jeff's tyranny, had recorded evidence just in case. We recorded it to make sure Tom wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Glad it helped, said the experienced worker.
I see. So that's what happened. That's regrettable. Tom, thank you for your hard work up to today. Let's talk again if there's a chance.
Kevin said with a smile, then quietly turned back to face Jeff.
Jeff, may we have a word?
His mouth smiled calmly, but his eyes were not laughing. You know, there might be some truth to the saying you don't want to get on his bad side. Oh, all right then. I'll just... Oh, and Kevin, here's my card. Couldn't give it to you yesterday. Anyway, it was nice meeting you. Hope we can catch up sometime. After handing my card to Kevin, I quickly got into the car. With Jeff flustered and Kevin unnervingly calm, I drove off, pondering how to explain to my wife that I might lose my job. From here on out, we're getting into what happened next. In the end, I didn't lose my job. I went to work with a letter of resignation, ready to apologize, but my boss said, "Who would want to continue a contract with a company that treats its employees' lives as disposable? We found better clients, so it's all good." I still had to write a report as a formality, though. Fortunately, the sick workers all recovered and returned to work a few days later. I cannot thank the workers enough who endured the harsh conditions and provided evidence against Jeff. I heard from one of the workers that after that incident, Kevin quickly decided to cut ties with Jeff's company and halted their business dealings. Jeff tried to find another contractor to restart the setup, but it was impossible to find one that could meet the schedule, and the planned event was inevitably canceled. I was bracing for blame, but instead, most companies sympathized with ours. The news would spread quickly through the industry. I wonder if Jeff's company will be okay. Well, right now, I don't have the bandwidth to worry about other people. Kevin has officially requested us for a huge event in a much larger venue than Jeff's company. Being assigned as the site manager again, I need to work even harder from now on.